Hello, my friends, and I'm Kellen Ann, and thank you for watching this edition of Ignite Your Wow, the show about how people wow. And my next guest really he's got the best story, and I can't wait to tell you more about it. But first, some business. We have two sponsors today, Blue Sky Video Productions. Blue Sky Video Productions and Bruce Himmelblau is the producer of this show and others. He is a live stream producer plus a YouTube strategist. So you're trying to build up your YouTube page, he's the guy for you. If you want to do a live stream and you're nervous about all the things that you have to do on the behind the scenes, he's the guy for you. And my next sponsor is, of course, Cards That Wow, which is my business. If you're ready to take your brand and up to the next level, contact me. I can help you with custom created and handmade note cards and other products that will make you stand out to your client. And then they will say, wow. So let's bring Bruce on and see what kind of tip we have for today.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So it's nice and weather here. We are actually hitting 70 degrees Fahrenheit for our European people. That is around, 22 Celsius.
Yep. Good, quick math. I like that about you.
So yeah, that's why I've learned with this multi-regional area is I'm learning time zones and conversions to from Fahrenheit to Celsius.
I have another clock. I have two clocks, and one it has UK time because that's what I have to convert most of my shows and clubs or courses that I belong to. So
and you're in California, so you got to convert a lot.
Yeah.
With me, it's easy. It's easy 6 hours from Central Time, Chicago, to London time.
Yeah, it's 8 for me, which makes sense because it's 2 hours between you and me. There goes our math again. I didn't know we were going to do math today.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've growing up is like, okay, you need to know math to do video. Like, really? Okay, you do.
You need more calculus?
Calculus?
Have you used calculus for anything?
I don't think I ever studied calculus. It was algebra and geometry.
I would have rather learned how to balance a checkbook than calculus. It would have been more.
Well, I grew up doing that because my dad's an accountant. My grandfather was an accountant. My grandfather actually helped found Arthur Anderson back in the 30s.
Do you get free accounting now for the rest of your life?
Actually, I do because I do it myself.
Oh, okay. We digress.
Yes. So back onto the show, and I know Ian's waiting for. So that was the tip of the day.
What was the tip?
The tip would be I love this, is if you say it, it's bragging, but if your client says it, it's a testimonial.
Very nice. Thank you.
So you always have someone as your wingman to say, yeah, Kellen does a great job. You should really hire her.
And then I say, Bruce does an awesome job. You should really hire him.
Yep.
There we go.
And if you want to learn about travel, you should really ask about Ian.
Yes, we're going to talk to him in a minute. So thank you for watching today. If you are watching this, let me know where you're coming from. And then at the end, if you like what you've heard, please share it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I like to build that up a little bit. Our guest today is Ian Pilbeam, and he took a year off to travel with his family, and he is going to tell us his story. So welcome, Ian.
Hey.
I almost called you Phil.
Oh, don't.
No, I know. It's like, oh my gosh. So thank you so much for being my guest from across the pond.
Indeed, where the temperature is also 22.
Oh, nice.
As long as you put a decimal point between the two digits.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's been in the 80s here in California. And then the last 2 days, it's been like, I've been freezing. It's like, I don't know where else you can live where you're sweating and wearing shorts and t-shirts one day and then wearing a winter parka the next. It's just crazy weather. But we're not here to talk about weather now. We're here to talk about your new book, which was, when did you release it officially? Because I know you've done 2 launches.
Yeah, the 5th of March. The 5th
awesome.
of March, my birthday. Great.
That's the perfect.
Yeah.
That's the perfect day. So we met. We were just discussing this in October of last year in Michael Heppel's Write That Book pop-up thing. What was it? 7? Was it 7 days straight of
6 days?
6 days straight of writing, which I didn't realize that I could write, which was really exciting for me. And then at that time, was it at that time that you didn't even know if you were going to write a book?
Yeah, that's right. I'd always had the idea that I would write this book at some point in my life, but last year was actually really busy for my business. So when Michael ran the first masterclass in, I think, May time, there was no chance on earth I could have done it.
Right.
But I was still really busy in October. But I could see the excitement from everybody else that had been involved, and I thought, well, I'm going to have a look. And what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
I might learn to write a bit better. And 6 days later, as you know, I had a title, I had a subtitle, I had the promise, which is the blurb on the back, I had the cover image, and I'd written the first 1,000 words, and there was no going back. It had to happen.
Did you find that you were like more and more excited once you wrote? Like, you'd have to stop to live your life, and you just couldn't wait to get back to writing?
Oh, it was bonkers. I mean, I think for me, because, I think if you're writing a book that is a piece of fiction, for example, I absolutely take my hat off to anybody that does that and can create new characters and a whole narrative and plot line. This book, I knew the book. We lived it.
Right.
I'm writing a year of our life. So to some extent, it wrote itself, but it was a joy, particularly in the middle of lockdown, to be able to go around the world again, go back around the world with my family and relive all these special moments, and also discover how to then write in a way that would interest and draw in the reader and keep them reading, and make it a good book that people would enjoy. But yeah, it's great. I love going back around the world whilst I couldn't actually travel. So
tell us how this trip happened. I mean, did you just wake up one morning and say, we're going around the world?
Nearly. It was fairly spontaneous. So our family situation at the time was our kids would have been 7 and 9, and we were caring for my wife's father. So he had vascular dementia, and he lived with us. And as that got worse, it impacted more and more on family life, to the point that we couldn't just spontaneously go out to the cinema or the zoo or the shopping mall or whatever. So we did manage to get some care for him. We just got him finally moved into a care home because he was at that stage. It was best for him. And we went on a 2-week package holiday. And one evening in the bar after dinner, I said to the kids, where do you fancy going next on holiday? And they said, can we ever think about that and come back to you tomorrow, please, Daddy? So, okay. Bit cheeky, but fair enough. So they did. And the next evening in the same bar, they brought out a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper were 10 countries. Wow. And next to every country was an animal. So it was something like Australia kangaroos, China panda bears, Madagascar lemurs, Africa lions, etc. And we just looked at this list, my wife and I, and thought, wow, right? We'd love to go to these places as well. I wonder if you can get a round the world ticket for families. And next morning we Googled it, and you could. 3 weeks after I got back from that holiday, I'm negotiating my exit from a well-paid, permanent, secure role. This is autumn 2007. None of us knew what was about to happen in the world.
Right.
Thank goodness I didn't, because we might not have done it. And then we waited until the end of the academic year, so until the end of June, before we actually did it. So it was then the best part of a year in preparation. But the decision just came out of nowhere. But we saw that there was an opportunity to get our family life back, have quality time with our kids and then with their parents, and at the same time go to some, dream destinations that you'd always want to, but probably would never get to in your life.
That's amazing. So take us on that trip. Where did you start?
So we started in Cape Town. So when I was a student, the anti-apartheid movement was my thing. So, Mandela was a big hero. So that for me was somewhere I wanted to start. It's logistically a good place to start because it's only like 1 hour's time difference. You just fly straight down. And because we had a round the world ticket, we bought one with 4 continents. So you go in the direction. So we started in Cape Town, a famous city by the sea with an iconic mountain. And we finished 12 months later in Rio, a legendary city by the sea with an iconic mountain.
Nice.
So it was nice bookends to the whole thing. And if you scroll whichever way it is, you draw a straight line across from Cape Town, you see Rio.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. So it was nice, but we went obviously the other way around. So Africa, up to Asia, so Hong Kong, China, Japan, and then Southeast Asia, and then down to west coast of Australia initially, and then across to the east coast, New Zealand, and then South America.
Wow.
Yeah. So we did the lot, really.
So did you guys each have a separate favorite place, or was it just everything your favorite place?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of answers to that. I mean, there were days that stand out that were the days when you did something incredibly special. You know, whether that's snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef, or walking on the Great Wall of China, or seeing the dawn rise over Machu Picchu. You know, these are dream events.
Mm-hmm.
And there were about 100 days when we got back that I listed, and I went, they were special days. And then the other 260 were the family time. They were the downtime when we just did stuff. You know, whether that was getting the laundry done, or planning the next thing, or writing the diaries, or splashing in the swimming pool, whatever. And they were just as special, but in different ways.
Right.
When you come to countries, it's kind of the same thing. It's not just about where was a special place to be, but it's about how special was it for us as a family. And that meant that we all had different favorites. So my wife Anne's favorite was Japan. Japan is, we could talk about Japan for an hour. It's a fascinating, interesting juxtaposition of ancient and modern.
Mm-hmm.
So she loved Japan. We all did, but that was her favorite. My daughter's favorite was Madagascar, and that's because of the lemurs.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those special days was hand feeding ring-tailed lemurs in the wild. Oh, it was just amazing. My son's favorite was New Zealand, and New Zealand is an amazing country, but it's also a little bit like Scotland, which is where we're from. So it was kind of familiar, and we were 2/3 of the way through the year. So I think that was his home from home. And then my favorite was Peru.
Oh.
I'd always wanted to go to Peru. So I don't know whether you guys are familiar with a children's character called Paddington Bear.
Yeah.
Okay. So Paddington, I loved Paddington when I was a kid. And of course, Paddington comes from Peru. And
right.
Great Aunt Lucy is from deepest, darkest Peru. So that was planted in my imagination as a child. So I always had a dream of going to Peru, and I thought I knew what it would look like, and it surpassed it 1,000 times over. It's a stunning country. It's got everything. So loved it. So yeah, we all had different favorites, but lots of favorites. I
am backtracking back to the ancient time of when I was in school and history lessons and geography. And I am just thinking, what a gift you gave your kids, because they're not just seeing a flat map in a book. They have these 3-dimensional life and, physical and emotional memories so when I say Madagascar, I think of the Disney movie. When your kids say Madagascar, they see Madagascar. And I think that is so awesome that you guys did that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm like, it was just a gift. And I know they'll appreciate it even more as they get older. Did they lose interest in the traveling day after day after day after a while? Or did they get excited every morning because it was a new adventure?
Oh, I think we all have. Travels when it becomes your life. So it's not a 2-week holiday. It is your life. You still take yourself with you, and as a family, you still take yourself with you. I mean, I'm glad we didn't do it with teenagers. That would have been a nightmare. So they were just they were pre-hormonal, so thank goodness for that. So yeah, there were grumpy moments, and times when we were all tired, times when people were homesick, times when we were ill. I talk about all of these in the book. And stuff happens the same as it would happen at home. But we tried to construct the travel in a way that was child friendly. Mm-hmm. So we weren't doing too many long, relentless bus journeys.
That's
If
a
there was a
great
flight,
picture.
we'd take the flight. But we still, and there were times when we'd maybe stay in a place for 3 or 4 weeks and then do side trips off it. But we still stayed in over 100 different places. We still went on 50 different kinds of transport. So we kept it
Okay.
going as well.
50 kinds of transport. Share with me some of those.
Gosh, well, I mean, the obvious ones would have been, plane, bus, train,
Metro.
ferry, camper van, helicopter, hot air balloon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What about one of those things that were the rickshaw? Rickshaw?
Oh yeah, various forms of tuk-tuks in South Asia. In Madagascar, it was a thing called a pousse-pousse, which was basically a cart pulled by a very, very thin man with bare feet, who just pulled you through the streets of this actually one of the towns with the highest level of HIV/AIDS in the world. Being pulled through the streets like a Roman emperor was quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But we also knew that was the only way he was going to put food on his table that night.
Mm-hmm.
One of those cultural challenges that you have to try and wrestle with when you're traveling. That looks like them. And in Thailand, there was what they're called santaos, I think they're called, which is like a wagon, and the back is open with benches either side, and just kind of pile in. So there's all sorts of stuff. Great fun.
That's fun. And okay, that was the next thing I was going to bring up, was the difference in social statuses, and I mean, you probably saw extreme wealth and extreme poverty. How did the family react to that?
It depended where we were in the cycle of travel. So if you're in New Zealand and you've just come from 3 months in Australia, then the fact that you're staying in middle-class suburbs just feels quite normal.
Mm-hmm.
Contrasted to spending 2 nights, 3 days in a Thai hill tribe where it's pure subsistence life.
Mm.
We've never seen people happier, more content, octogenarians looking incredibly healthy. They're living, I mean, they were pulling frogs out of the sand by the river and putting them in their bags to eat that night. So it's true subsistence living. And then 24 hours later, you're in Singapore. And it just doesn't, and that juxtaposition didn't work.
Yeah.
So I hated Singapore. And I'm sure if I went directly from London, I'd probably love it.
Right. Yeah, I know that makes sense. That's a good point.
Yeah. And I talk in the book about how you feel about a place that you visit is more to do with you than it is to do with the place.
True.
I've been to places. So in the year before we went away, I spent 3 months living and volunteering in Sri Lanka. And that was in the heat of their civil war. So there were fatal bomb attacks going off around me. I sat on the bed one morning writing my blog and heard a bloke being blown up a mile down the road. Yeah, it's horrible. But we'd been to Sri Lanka a couple of years previously, and we'd been to a town called Kandy with a K, and didn't like it at all. We were on a trip, we were tired, the weather wasn't very good, it was busy, didn't like Kandy at all. Wind forward 2 years, and I'm there on my own as a volunteer. Kandy became my go-to destination every weekend. It's where I went to get away from all the troubles and just relax. And I loved it. Same place, it hadn't changed, but I had in my outlook. And that's the same, you and I both run businesses. It's the same with a business challenge.
Right.
The challenge can be the same, and it can either sink you or you can deal with it, depending on how you're feeling.
Or it can raise you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the book. So it sounds like you'd written a blog before. You'd never written a book. No. You weren't sure that you were going to write a book until you joined not the masterclass, but the pop-up. And then what part of the pop-up did you say, hey, I think I'm going to do the masterclass with Michael?
I think probably within 24 hours. So the first challenge was to come up with a title.
Right.
And the beauty of being in a group of people is you get support and accountability, but you also get their ideas and contributions.
Oh, so where did you come up with your wonderful title?
Oh, good question, Kellen Ann. So I did a poll. So I'd been thinking about a title for about 3 years, and I had 3 or 4 options, and they were all, we called ourselves the Family Trippers. So the titles were all kind of loosely based around that phrase. And I put them in a poll in the Facebook pop-up group, and somebody suggested an alternative title. She said that kids are always saying on a trip, "Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?"
And suddenly everybody's voting for it. And the moment I saw it, I knew I had a book. The moment I saw it, I went, "Geez, that's it. Why the heck didn't I think of that?" And I genuinely can't tell you what any of the other titles were. It's like it's always been called "Are We There Yet?" Always been called it. And it's lovely because it's just, I love in life, I love things that do what the tin says.
Well, and it's also universal. It's a universal phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's brilliant. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'm going to start a new career as titling books.
You'll do very well.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the writing process. Write. Wait, what is it? Read, write, edit, repeat. Read, write, read.
Yeah.
So, did you follow that formula?
Yeah, I did. I think I probably did more writing and less reading, but I did read. And so, give me a second. That's vodka. It's very good.
I was just thinking that. This is where I have my vodka.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit later here, so I'm allowed. So I did do was I went to a local charity shop. You call them thrift stores, is it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I bought 4 travel books. And I didn't read them. I actually sat with them with a pen. And I'm going through and I'm going, "Oh, I like that phrase. I'll use that." And that's a good device. And in the end, I used very few of them.
Right.
But it helped me to understand how a travel book looks and what works, and getting how to write. I think for me, telling the story was okay because I knew it.
Right.
The skills I had to learn were telling a funny story in a funny way, right? Conveying a difficult scene in a non-cheesy, authentic, sincere way. So when I had to write, for example, about the when I had to write about the poverty in Swaziland, for example, which is the country with the highest level of HIV/AIDS in the world, I thought, can I do this justice? So I had to learn how to do that. And I also had to learn that every word and every sentence and every paragraph matter, so that there was no dead weight in the book, so that the reader would want to go and I'll keep going. And I knew I'd done that when one of our mutual friends, Steve Kelly, Steve said, "I bought the book, but I'm really busy and it's going to have to go on my summer holiday reading pile." That was on a Sunday. And on the Wednesday, he said, "I've read it." He read it in 3 sittings because he just couldn't put the blooming thing down. And I thought, excellent. That's what I was trying to achieve.
That's like every author's dream is for them not to be able to put your book down.
Right. Yeah, I was delighted with that.
Rocco was sleeping until somebody walked by.
Rocco knows I'm not great with dogs, so he's sensing my fear from across the pond.
He's vicious, let me tell you. No. So part of that I did not hear because he was barking so loud. So Steve was the one that you sent the book to, and
no, Steve bought it.
Oh, we got it, and he couldn't put it down.
Yeah, and
okay.
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to read it until the summer.
Well, the thing about that is also it's a huge accolade on your part, because Steve he knows this stuff and he's very respected in our group, and for him to do that, I can imagine how excited that made you and how happy that made you.
Yeah, I mean the reason I did this book initially with legacy. This was my family story, and I wanted to write the story for my kids and our grandkids, because although there were the vlogs, they weren't that good. Some were all right. Some of them were rubbish. They were just here's a photo and bye. They were just pointless.
Right.
So I wanted to write the book for them, and that was the starting point. And then as I started to share content, because I wrote the first draft in 80 days, which I always think is so fitting for a book about going around the world. And then I shared it with members of our group, and the feedback was so strong. And people are very supportive anyway, but genuinely, I could see that I'd written something that people were enjoying, because they were saying, can you please send me more? And then, could you please send me some more after that? So I started to realize that it was actually inspiring people as a story. So look, I would love it if your viewers, your tribe, want to go and buy the book. That's great. But the only reason I would love it is because I hope they'll enjoy it, and it might just press a button and inspire something in their life. This is not about, I'm not interested in sales numbers. I'm genuinely not. I'm interested in impact within my family and impact on others. And then along the way, it's great fun doing shows like this.
Yes.
Enjoy. We're talking about my two favorite subjects, travel and me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. I do this every show. I have a thought and then it's gone. In that moment, let's say hi to Fiona, our lovely Fiona, who I met through Write That Book and Team 17, and Eric, Team 17. I think he also talked about, Bedazzled. Eric usually tells me that he's wearing bedazzled jeans, but today, oh my God, he's wearing a yellow banana hammock. I'm sorry, Ian. I have no control over that. And Wes, thank you for tuning in too. So, okay, you get the book written, and so now you get to do a lot of promotion of it. And what's next?
So it's currently only available in Amazon.
Okay.
As a paperback and Kindle on Amazon. There's an audio book on my website, but it will in the next few weeks be hopefully getting into bookshops. So what I'd like to do is obviously persuade as many bookshops as I can to stock it, and off the back of that, perhaps do some online events,
bookstores,
and then maybe next year. So we are actively considering a trip stateside next year.
Nice.
And my accountant reminded me this morning that if I do a book tour, I can put that trip through the business. So,
yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yeah. So yes. So we might just do that next year.
So if we want to get an autographed copy, we need to buy it Amazon and then ship it to you?
Yeah, or I can ship it to you. Yeah. So I can get author's copies from Amazon and then just add on the shipping costs and send it over. That'll be okay.
So if my viewers would love to get an autographed copy, would that be something? How would they get a hold of you? Would they go contact you on Facebook, your website?
Yeah, the website is familytrippers.co.uk.
Okay.
Familytrippers.co.uk. So that's where you can get.
We'll put that in the comments too, so if people later see it, they can do it, because I highly recommend this book. I highly, highly recommend it. And you are an inspiration to me, and actually getting your book done. I had a few bumps along the way, but I'm proceeding. Oh, there we go. Is that it?
That's
Perfect.
it.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah. So, I couldn't imagine just dropping everything and, leaving for a year, but I would love to do that. And that's what I was going to remember when I said I forgot something that, okay, jumping back, your book is kind of an escape for people too. It's a fun adventure. And, a lot of people are having troubles these days, and to have something like that to read and kind of live vicariously through your words, I think that's an amazing gift as well. So I thank you for writing this book.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And do you know what? It's a classic example of how something doesn't quite work out, but something much better comes from it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously the tragedy of my father-in-law's health, if that hadn't have happened, and actually his wife, my mother-in-law, dying in their late 50s of cancer, if that hadn't have happened, the trip would never have occurred.
Right.
Yeah. I tried to write the book 3 years ago. I made a false start at it. But actually, if I had written it then, it wouldn't have been anything like as good a book as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through this masterclass experience, and it wouldn't have been released in the middle of COVID at a time when actually it's so relevant to people's lives because they want that escapism because they can't travel themselves overseas. Right. So the timing was perfect. And this just happens in life time after time after time. On Sunday, Saturday, the weekend anyway, my wife got her letter from the health service with her vaccination date, her first vaccination. And it's Tuesday, the 13th of April at 12 noon. Right. And she went, 13th of April, 12 noon. Oh, it's not, is it? She got her phone out. It's exactly the same time as her first haircut in 6 months. Right. Now, my wife has an immaculately coiffured bob. Right, so it's her centerpiece. It's her identity. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, it's not. After 6 months, it's not. It doesn't look like it normally does. So she's desperate for this haircut. And when did they pick a vaccination date? The same time. But of course, she texts the hairdresser. Oh, I've had a cancellation. I can get you in earlier.
Oh, great!
And that's what happens in life.
Yeah,
that's what happens time after time.
That's a big thing to learn. When you're young, you just stress about the silliest, tiniest, minutest things. And I just, that's one thing I like about getting older is I just go off my shoulder and like, oh, well, and now I have the attitude of, oh, something better's coming. That's all that means. If something happens, it just means something better is going to happen. And then I actually look forward to it instead of just kind of dwelling. So that's a good lesson for all of us as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I have lots of little sayings that I use in my business in my life. And one is the answer will emerge.
Yes, that's a good one.
So, you can't see away something, but the answer will emerge, and it always does. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, which I talk about in the book, is what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
So when I looked at my wife, Anne, and said, shall we do this? She said, what's the worst that can happen? We have to sell the house and downsize. And I went, okay, I can live with that. Let's do it.
Yeah.
When 7 years ago, I decided to quit paid employment and start my own business, because I'd had that experience, I said, what's the worst that can happen? The business fails and I have to go and get another job. I can live with that as well.
So the book is not your business. No. What is your business? Because I didn't even ask you about your business.
So I own I nearly said run, but I don't run anymore. I own an outsourced human resources and health and safety business.
Okay, good. Awesome.
In Scotland. So that looks after small businesses and small charities that are too small to have their own in-house professionals. Mm-hmm. So they outsource that to us.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So I've done that so I started that 7 years ago, and I've been building it very deliberately and sometimes quite belligerently to the point where it would not just run without me, but would actually run better without me than with me. Mm-hmm. Because I would have created the systems, the talent and the culture.
Right.
It just thrives in my absence. And I then just own that business for many years to come. There's my income, there's my pension. Mm-hmm. Business runs on. And then guess what I'm going to be doing for the next many years? Backpack on, off we go again.
Love it.
But this time with a book being written as we go, perhaps.
Oh, that might be a little easier, huh?
Yeah, backpacking for old people. That's one working title.
Backpacking for seniors. So, is there any question that I've left out that you would like to answer, or anything you'd like to tell our audience before we shuffle on to our next?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I probably get asked most times, so I'll cover it, is what about the kids' education? And you touched on it, but how do you get the kids out of school? And the answer is, if you're doing it for a year, they just leave the school. I mean, they literally left the school and then re-enrolled a year later. So that was easy. But the benefit that they got educationally, they were at the perfect age. So 8 and 10, 9 and 11. They could read, they could write, they got basic maths. It was all there. So the world just became their classroom.
Did you have them journal?
Yes, we did. They did a daily diary. They initially were not keen at all, and quite often they weren't keen when it became a chore. But at the start, I mean, if I dug them out, day one is we had pasta for tea, we watched The Simpsons, and we went to bed. Right? Now, their parents were not having that. So they improved their writing skills as they went along. But in the book, as you know, on 3 or 4 of those special days, I've included the kids' diaries.
Oh, nice.
Because they are just so beautifully written. And the excitement and the passion comes through. But it's seeing those events and those places through the kids' eyes rather than through my eyes. So yeah, they were magical. They were and are big moments of pride for a parent to see kids writing that well. Yeah,
I'm so happy that you were able to spend some time with me and my viewers today. Thank you so much. So people, we put your website in the comments so that if they want to order a book and have it autographed by you, they can do that through there. And yeah, so what is your next? Do you have any more shows that you're doing, or?
Yeah, I'll just mention I think I saw a whole load of photos on screen just now. So that's my Instagram feed. Mm-hmm. So if anyone wants to see some nice holiday photos every day, that's at Original Family Trippers.
Nice.
On Insta. So yeah, happy to do that. So yeah, no, I've got a few more coming up.
Good.
I discovered a website called matchmaker.fm, which is like a dating site for podcasters and guests, hosts and guests. So I've probably got I sent out 9, you can do 9 requests a month on the free package. And I think that's led to 6 podcasts.
Nice. Great.
And again, as I say, it's not about, it's just enjoyable to do. I love this. It's every time I talk about the trip, I learn something else about what we did as we get deeper and deeper into it. So it's been a joy. Thank you, Kellen Ann.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story and the insights from your book and your life and your beautiful family. I look forward to the next one. I'll tell you that right now. So everybody, thank you for tuning in today. Like I said, if you like this, please remember to share it out and subscribe so you get notifications every time I go live. Today, we got to meet Ian Pilbeam, who made me wow the minute I named his book. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. And just to let you know, we have a new time after this show. We will be 1:00 Pacific from now on. We're going to go a little later, and I'll make sure to put some promos out and let you get, just to remind you guys. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.